y'all, I'm Laura Richardson with Relevate, and we're bringing you another episode of I'm Moving to North Carolina, Now What? So here in the Triangle, we tend to have a lot of HOAs, homeowners associations. So let's talk scary truths about HOA communities. What do you need to know, and how can you effectively live in a property that has maybe one, maybe two, or multiple HOAs? Well, first of all, here's your need to knows. Here's top 5 that I can give to you. The rules are probably the most important starting point. So you want to look at the articles, bylaws, and covenants of the HOA community. You need to know what you can and can't do. As folks continue to move within the Triangle as well as relocate here to RDU, sometimes they're unaware of what's commonplace. A big one that we saw during the COVID market was folks moving here that wanted to have chickens or any other type of farm animal. In a lot of other areas, it could be super common to have these in your backyard and not a big deal. But there are a lot of HOA communities here in the Triangle that will not allow anything that doesn't fit your standard dog, cat, or kept in a cage inside type of animal. So always starting point number 1 to review. The second thing is how you can be penalized for not following the rules. There are actually some really cool Instagram accounts as well as some really good articles that have come out recently in regards to very strict and very stringent HOAs and how they react when somebody either doesn't pay their dues or they violate one of the covenants and how that's outlined. So make sure you know just how strict an HOA community is before you start living there, because you don't want it to impact your livability. The third thing, and this is in particular to townhomes, is looking at master policies. So what's covered as far as the policy is concerned for all of the different units? Does it vary by subsection or phase of the community? And then are there multiple HOA fees? A lot of times, especially in master plan communities, you might see kind of an umbrella with little spokes underneath. So the master community or the over kind of arching community has its own HOA fee, and then there's a secondary fee for living in the townhome section. In addition to that, there might be additional charges for like trash, sewer, maintenance, and things like that you could have. It's important to know these numbers before you go under contract, because your month-to-month payments, as well as the longevity of your stay in that home, are going to be impacted by these additional fees. So make sure you're asking, is there one or multiple? They should be disclosed in MLS and they should be disclosed properly, but we have seen sometimes there can be discrepancies. So always a good thing to double check. Another one with townhomes in particular is looking at the standing budget. So let's say that a townhome community says that they're going to cover exterior siding maintenance, so repainting and replacing rotted wood that can happen over the course of time. The HOA might be in agreement that they do plan to cover this, but if there is not a good solid standing budget to actually cover that maintenance, it doesn't matter that they've agreed to cover it. If there's no money, there's no money. You can't get blood from a turnip. So it is really important that you look at previous meeting minutes and even ask for a copy of the current yearly budget so you can ensure that you're protected in the long run. Another big one is looking at communication. So try contacting the property management group or the HOA prior to going under contract. How responsive are they? Do they answer the phone? Does anybody have a good solid email contact? Because that's going to be really important as you get closer to either rules that need to be followed, payments that need to be made, or maintenance charts that also need to be followed through. And then one pro tip that I would highly recommend asking is there any impending legal action against the HOA? In very rare circumstances, sometimes we can find out that there is an impending lawsuit. It's not something that's been disclosed because it has not yet come to fruition as far as the results of that, but it is something that's coming down the pike. So future owners could be impacted by what's going on. So all of these are really important questions. And then the biggest thing to kind of resolve with is, are you ready to live in an HOA community? Some folks can decide that that's not for them. Now, I will go ahead and point out that just because a community doesn't have an HOA does not necessarily mean they don't have covenants. Those can actually be two completely different things. They're both sets of rules. It's just how those rules are kind of enforced can deviate. HOA typically has a board or a governing body that kind of makes sure to enforce the rules on behalf of the homeowners. And then with your covenants, it's the actual homeowners in that community together that enforce those policies. If you have any questions about HOAs in the area, the rules that we see consistently here, or anything else related to real estate, make sure to drop those in the comments below. I'm Laura Richardson with Relevate, and we'll see you on our next episode.